Tilta Mirage Matte Box. I've been debating buying MatteBox for some time already. The main reason is that sometimes when shooting against the sun I got quite annoying flare in the lens, and except the flare, thing which is annoying even more is the loss of contrast. So it is especially annoying for Samyangs. So 12 and 24 I got for E-mount and Laowa 12mm for EF mount, so for Blackmagic 6K. But some other lenses also lose contrast when shooting against the sun, especially when they are wide open. So actually it is for every lens I got. Other reason is that this thing comes with drop-in ND filter. It's variable ND from 1 to 9 stops. So this one filter is actually like you having both Peter McKinnon Polar Pros, because one is from 1 to 5, another one is from 6 to 9. I actually got the 6 to 9 version, and sometimes 6 to 9 is just too much even while shooting outside, so I needed also lower values of NDs. So this ND filter is actually like either two Polar Pro McKinnons or the filters you got in Polar Pro Basecamp, which got both NDs included. And as always, I paid for this thing with my own money, so that means it's based on my opinion. What's the difference between this and Polar Pro? Because I've been also wondering about the Polar Pro and waiting which one to get. The main pro of this one is that this is lighter than the Basecamp. This one is, I'd say, less versatile, and the pro of this one is also the price is like almost 3 times cheaper than the Basecamp, at least in Poland. Why this is less versatile? I mean, you can debate it, but generally the pros of how this is designed is that you got ND filter. The ND filter is circular, and so you just drop this in and you got the ND. But in the Basecamp you got circular polarizer, and which is round, and then you got ND filters in front of it, so whenever you turn the polarizer, then you also change the ND stops. But you could use the polarizer as a polarizer only without the ND, so you got more options there, because here there is no polarizer, and probably there would be, my guess is there would be a polarizer like that, but then you cannot use the ND, or there would be a polarizer and you can use ND the same way you can use it in Basecamp, which then makes this heavier than it is at the moment. So that's the main difference. So I guess you got additional way of using Basecamp, because you can use Basecamp only as a polarizer. And also when you got the 3-stage Basecamp, then you can drop multiple filters. So for example, you can drop ND and mist, but here you can do the same, but then again there is only one place for the filter, so you can have this ND and a mist, or this ND and something else like streak filter or whatever, but then it's less versatile, because in the Basecamp, the Polar Pro Basecamp, you can get more options and more scenarios. And also quite important difference in the size. So based on the size also there is a weight difference, so this is smaller and lighter. But the main thing regarding the size is that this mount is 95mm in diameter, so you can mount it up to 95mm. That means it's compatible with almost every photo lens, because you got those rings, so you can convert almost any photographic lens to be 95. And also it is compatible with every Sigma cinema lens, because they got 95mm diameter. It is also compatible with Vazen anamorphics, both full frame and micro four thirds. So full frame Vazens are 95 millimeters diameter, so they are compatible with this straight away. Micro four thirds, two of them are the same, and the 28 millimeters is compatible via screw-in plate. So all Vazens are compatible with this MatteBox. It's also compatible with the newest full frame anamorphic from Sirui, at least with the 50, but the real cinema anamorphics are not, because the standard for their diameter is 114 millimeters. So for example, Atlas anamorphics and other big brands like Cook and stuff like that, they are not compatible because they are bigger in diameter. So you need a Basecamp, because Basecamp is actually compatible with 114. So that's the main difference. I've been thinking of renting Atlas for Blackmagic 6K, but I moved it into the future. I wouldn't buy it probably because it's 8K US dollars, so I probably wouldn't buy it, although those new Sirui anamorphics are quite interesting, so maybe I would get them when I get the full frame camera, but I don't know if that would be Sony or Panasonic, although my MatteBox would be compatible with those anamorphics, so that's the plus. Regarding the pricing, I got the version with the ND filter but without the motor. I got the small clamp, which allows you to mount the VND only without the MatteBox onto the lens, and I got 3 additional rings, 52, 55 and 58, because I got photographic lens with such a threads. There is also 62, but I don't have any lens with 62, so I haven't bought it. And with the box you got 67, 72, 77 and 82 plates already, so at the moment I got 7 of them and plenty of choices. Actually I can mount it on every of my lenses, maybe except the biggest Sigma, which got 95 or 92 millimeters thread, so I think there is no such plate, but I will see, maybe there is a way to mount it directly. So I paid 563 bucks here in Poland for all the accessories I've shown, so additional rings, small clamp and the whole set for the MatteBox. And since this is my company purchase, the actual cost at the end without the taxes is 384 bucks, so it is not that expensive. I guess the 1ND Peter McKinnon filter costs the same amount, so quite cheap. And if I would like to have the Basecamp with the same functions, I would have to pay here in Poland 1125 bucks, which is almost 3 times as much as for this one. Endgame cost would be around 930 bucks after the taxes, but to get the same functionality, or to get the same options that I can have ND and mist, I'll have to buy the 3-stage Basecamp, so this is the more expensive one. And also this includes rod mount, so I would have to buy additionally the rod mount, so that would be probably even more. And actually I think in Poland there is no official dealer of the Polar Pro Basecamps. Few shops got them, but I think they somehow import them on their own. They are not like official partners of Polar Pro, so the prices are quite ridiculous. And also there is no way to buy the 3-stage version here, so I have either to order the 3-stage version from States, so I have to buy this around 1200 bucks, and then probably duty on top of it, and I couldn't deduct any taxes, so that would be quite expensive, like 3 times more expensive than this one. Or there is the option to buy the base one and then order the third stage from States, so I would probably pay like $300 less for the combo, but I wouldn't got the mist and 6 to 9 ND, which is included when you buy the 3 stage together. So not very interesting options regarding the pricing. So that's another reason to buy this one, at least for me. It's 3 times cheaper than the 3 stage Basecamp, and also it is smaller and lighter. And since I do not plan to have those big cinema lenses soon, I guess I would be okay with this smaller one. And then when I can afford Atlas lens, I would definitely be able to afford Basecamp, even 3 of them. So that's not a very big problem, I think. So at the end, I would probably get a Basecamp in the future, but it is like within 3 years or something like that. Maybe there will be something else. That's why I got this one. So the pros are the weight, the price, compatibility with almost every photographic lens, and compatibility with all lenses up to 95mm. So actually a lot of cheaper anamorphics, and also that you got the 1 to 9 ND in one package, so you don't have to change either the circular one or the whole plate like it's in Basecamp. So quite nice. And how is it sold? Of course, it's in a pretty, like Tilta products, in a pretty box, which I would probably throw to the trash at the end. Then in the box you got the hardback like that, a case. And what's in the case? 4 of such plates. So as I said, 67, 72, 77 and 82. There is a accessory you can attach to the VND and make it motorized if you got Tilta Nano follow focus. It's also compatible with the motor you got dedicated for this one. There is a small cloth, and there is also a filter holder. So instead of the variable ND, you can put some other filters, but I've seen there are not that many companies which make such filters. There is a Vaxis, which creates plenty of filters, but they are quite expensive, although they are less expensive than square filters for the MatteBox. So there are options. But then, if you got this, if you got circular filter here, you cannot use this together with the variable ND, so it is less versatile than Basecamp. But also you can put square filters here, like 4x 5 filters, but they are quite expensive, like $200 for the mist, so not that nice. But the mist from Polar Pro is also $200, so it is the same pricing. So you got this also. There is rod mount included, which is actually nice because for the Basecamp you have to buy this, and it's additional $120. And there is a filter pouch. You can put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can put 6 filters. You can put 6 filters here, and the original ND came in the pouch. So they advertise this as a 1 to 9 filter, but there is a caveat. On their page they say that you can use this above 35mm focal length from 1 to 9, and you shouldn't get an X pattern. And if your lens is wider, then you can use this from 1 to 7 stops, which means then if you want more stops, you would either get a cross pattern or you have to use different filter for wider lenses. So I would check this later with this Sigma 18-35. It shouldn't be a problem because my wide lenses are quite slow, so 2.8, so I don't need 9 stops of ND there. This one is 1.8, so maybe here when there is a lot of sun that might be problematic. That might be the case if you got full frame camera and really fast glass like 1.2, 1.4, then maybe you need 9 stops of ND. In terms of my APS-C cameras, probably not. If that's the case, it's not very big problem for me, because I can remove this, and each of these plates got the thread here, so you can screw this onto your lens, but there is also another thread here, so you can screw in filter here. So there is additional level of flexibility here. That means that when I remove the ND, I can screw in my 6 to 9 stops Peter McKinnon here, and actually this fits like a glove. So if I got a problem with wider lenses, I got the solution. If there is a cross pattern above 7 stops on wide lenses, but you need additional screw-in filter, so if you don't have one, then you screwed. So you have to get this in mind, that if there's a cross pattern on your lens, then you don't have 1 to 9 stops, you got rather 1 to 7. There is also optional holder like that for 2 filters, so you can put filters from both sides, which gives you more possibilities, although still you cannot get a ND plus something else using double bracket, so it's not that elastic as a Basecamp. Are there any cons? I'd say yes, few. So I'd say the first con, maybe not that big, and seems it is the same with the Polar Pro and most of the cheap matte boxes, that the flag is screwing in one place. So you got only one mounting point, so when you're moving a flag, sometimes it tends to also move like that, and they advertise this, that you can put it on the car and drive really fast. That would probably flying in the air, so it's not that rigid, and that would make such a noise. So I'm not sure it is possible to ride very fast, but maybe you don't need a flag then. Depends on the scenario where is the light. So it would be for sure more rigid when you got additional anchor point here, but it's a really small flaw. Another quite annoying thing is that button. So judging from the shape of it, I don't know how to unlock it, but you have to pull it out. So the shape of this button is, I'd say, not well thought, because it seems like this suggests I should press it or pull it back, but actually you have to pull it out to remove this bracket. Actually, it's not that intuitive. I was thinking how to remove that bracket, and you need to move it out. There is option to remove the MatteBox completely. You have to press 2 latches and remove it, but that might be another con, maybe not that big con. After attaching this, the frame still moves, so there is some room and it moves, so it is not that the frame is kept in one place, so it moves back and forth. And if you mount it on a fast car, I bet that would move in the wind, so that's not that rigid. So I'm not sure it's, although you wouldn't probably record sound from the camera mounted on the car, so maybe it's not a problem, but maybe the rattling, or maybe that would cause some shake, I don't know. But it's not that this is really sturdy, that moves. So small con here also. And I guess my main complaint is this small clamp actually. So how this works, so you actually have to screw this in, 3 holes, and you screw this in either to this circular ND or to the bracket, which you can put filters in, and then you can clamp it to your lens. So I screw this in with the Allen key. The Allen key is shipped together with the clamp, and what's my complaint about it? So you have to remove the matte box, and this with this clamp you can screw this in. So as you see, it works nice, but the problem was when it first came in, when I've been putting this on those plates, it was too loose. Even if I screw this in completely, there is some play, and I could just take it off from the ring. So if I'm going with the camera, I would probably drop the filter. So the really cheap fix was to glue in few strips of the isolating electrical tape. So I got 3 of them here, here and here, and then now it's much tighter and it wouldn't fall off. It seems it's quite lame. It doesn't fit like it should. Maybe my locking mechanism is broken, maybe it's missing some part inside this. There is a lock here, so I cannot disassemble this without losing the warranty or whatever. So the tape was the fastest way to fix it, and you have to be aware and check if this fits properly and if this locks properly on your lens, because you might drop it if you don't check it. So fortunately I checked it and I haven't dropped my filter, but if I wouldn't, I would probably drop it because it was really loose on my lens. So if I just move camera down, it would just fall off. So that's my main complaint for the whole setup, the looseness of this small clamp. Also the small con is that it's not compatible with the bigger anamorphic lenses, no, but this is by design, so it's smaller, so it's not compatible with the bigger lenses. One of the reasons to buy the MatteBox was that when I'm shooting on A6600 with Samyang 24 or Samyang 12, the loss of contrast when shooting against the sun is quite annoying. So you can even see here, if I put my hand and block the light which is coming from the side, then you gain the contrast, and when I take my hand out, you lose the contrast. So when the sun is high up on the sky, it would be nice to have the flag and the MatteBox. When I ordered this and I thought this through, I was laughing because that would probably block my screen, and at the moment you can see that 1/3 of the screen is blocked by the ring, and even if I put the small clamp, it blocks even more. Yeah, I can shoot with the Atomos like in this case, but then when I look at Atomos while shooting, then I'm not looking into the lens, which creates this effect I don't want, because you should look into the lens when you're talking to your audience. So when my screen is blocked, I cannot check my, I mean, in some situations I can check now. I can see there is a box on my eye, but if I'm standing more in the center, then I cannot see this. So it was not well thought. But then when I attach the MatteBox, it totally blocks the screen, so it's a no-go. So in case of shooting your talking head videos, like you want to vlog or whatever, or shoot a video outside when the sun is high, it would help with the loss of contrast and the flaring, but it would block your screen, at least for this combo. But even if I would have a flip out screen, it would cover the flip out, at least half of the flip out screen, so it wouldn't help. Maybe on bigger cameras, when the camera body is bigger, like full frame cameras, maybe it wouldn't be so annoying because you got a flip out screen, so screen would be still visible on the side. But the flip out, I think, is worst scenario for vlogging, because you are looking sideways to check your focus, so it's not that good as the screen which is on A6600 or some other cameras when it's top screen. So I think it's better, but with the MatteBox in, you are blocking the screen, so it is a bit annoying, although it depends. If you can trust your autofocus, then sure, you don't have to look into the monitor and you can just look into the lens, then you're fine. But sometimes I check if I'm still in focus, maybe something was pressed when I move the camera, like tracking or whatever. So it's better to check from time to time. So in that case, you cannot, although you can check like this or that, but it's a bit not well thought idea of mine. So now I would like to check the flaring and the protection from flaring with the small light. And as you can see, you lose plenty of contrast when you're shooting directly into the lens. So at the moment the light is direct into the lens and the flag is up, but when I put the flag down, you can see that there is a small change in the contrast, and actually I'd say it's quite beneficial to have it like that. So if the sun is up, that's the case, it's helpful, but if the light is shining from the side, then it's not that effective, or it's not effective at all. But if light is shining from above, then you can see that the flag helps a lot. So in that case, it's really helpful thing. But I guess the professional matte boxes, they got also side flags. So in that case, the side flag would be also helpful, and I doubt there is any option to attach something, except you can attach some cardboard with tape, but it wouldn't look very professional. Anyway, that's one of the pros of having the flag, but this works only in some specific scenarios when the light is above the lens and is shining directly into the lens, although from above. First thing, I wanted to check if the flag can prevent loss of the contrast when there is a direct light going into the lens. But in this scenario, when the sun is it's around 10 AM and the sun is not pointing straight in the camera, it's coming from this side, the flag doesn't matter, because now the flag is at the lowest position. Now if I get this totally up, nothing changes, but if I put my hand here, then I do not have any flares and contrast lost. So that means the side, actually the barn doors would help, or the side flag in that case. So in this scenario, the top flag doesn't help, which is sad, although I could set up the camera differently, but you know, it depends what you want to shoot and where you want to shoot. So it doesn't help in that case. Now I would like to see if there is any cross pattern when I'm changing the power of the ND filter. And in the manual they say that for focal length below 35mm you should use up to 7 stops. So we'll see. So at the moment Sigma is set at 18mm, which is 27 in full frame terms, and I will change the density and ISO to see if there is a cross pattern. Maybe there is, hard to say. The problem is there are clouds, but I guess now there is something. Yep, it's like there are lighter parts and darker parts. Now I'm switching to 35, and the manual says that 35 and above you should be able to use the whole range of the ND filter. So let's see. I do not see any cross yet, although this cloud in the left corner is kind of deceiving. I think there is none. Maybe. Okay, now I'm checking the cross a bit more scientific way. So I got the gray wall, which is lit by LCD light, and Sigma is at 18 millimeters. So we change the exposure with ND filter to see, and compensate with ISO to see if there is a cross pattern. I'm around 4 steps in. I think the 2 corners are getting darker. I'm now 5 stops in, and the manual calls for that this is okay for 7 stops. Yeah, I think that the corners are getting darker. I'm more or less 6 steps in. Yeah, and when I come to the, because I'm moving the head, and dark areas stay in the same place, so since there is a cross pattern, I wonder about the 35. So the same thing for Sigma at 35. 5 stops in, and now 6 stops in. Maybe there is something in the corners, top left and bottom right corner. I'm not sure on the monitor, but seems that this area is a bit darker now. But I'm at the end of the ND filter, so maybe a bit darker. The wall is not lit evenly. Maybe there is a really small cross pattern, but at least on the monitor it's hard to say. I will see on the bigger monitor later. Yeah, so I'm not sure how it works in the field. I got it yesterday, so I played with it around 24 hours to see if there are any cons, any pros, if something works not as designed. So I'd say the main cons are the loose mini clamp, which you don't use with the MatteBox actually, so it's not a con of a MatteBox, but it's a con of these small clamps. You have to be aware that if you're using only the small clamp, then you have to check if it is tight on your lens. In my case it wasn't, so it could fall off. And also it's not as flexible as a Basecamp, because especially the 3-stage version, because you cannot mount only the circular polarizer or ND plus something, or polarizer with mist, because there is no such option at the moment here. So you either got the VND plus 1 filter or VND, or you can put some screen filters. So also the plus of this design is that you can put the screen filter. I do not have that small filters. It is advertised that you can put a screen filter and then a VND on top of it. I'm not sure it's the case, because it seems there is not much clearance, but maybe if your screen filter is small. And the plus of this design is that you can actually put a lens cap here if you need, because yes, sure, you can protect it with the flag, but you got additional level of protection. You can put a lens cap, so it's another pro. But regarding the cons, I guess it is less flexible than Basecamp, but it's much lighter and much cheaper. So I guess the summary is that it's a better choice than Basecamp, especially if you're on the budget. But if you got bigger lenses than 95mm, then you need a Basecamp. Or if you want more flexible solution, Basecamp also a way to go, although it's much heavier because all the filters are rectangular. And for the Basecamp, the sizes of filters are not standardized. They got their own size, so you have always buy from the Polar Pro, so you're a bit limited in the choices, but for this one at the moment there is only one company that produces the round filters, which is Vaxis. They got plenty of filters, but they are also quite expensive, so it's hard to say which solution is better. I would post an update after a few weeks or maybe a month after I shoot something with it, but at the moment I shared all the pros, all the cons, so I guess that's helpful if you're thinking of buying the MatteBox. I guess it is better than all the mini MatteBox like Tilta Mini and Smallrig Mini MatteBoxes. You got more options here, and especially this V&D is quite nice. Although as you've seen, with wider lenses you got the X pattern above 6 stops, so it is not that obvious. So depends what you want. If you already got the ND filters, maybe your solution would be better. If don't, then might be the case that this is solution for you. I hope this would help you take your decision which MatteBox to go, or if you need a MatteBox at all. And I guess also the reason to get a MatteBox is that camera with a MatteBox looks very, very professional, and probably when your client sees camera with a MatteBox, he thinks like, whoa, that's probably the professional. I'd say it's not a reason to buy it, but some people think that way, that MatteBox create this professional look, which actually it creates the professional look, but it doesn't mean that you are a professional if you got a MatteBox on your camera. Cheers, mate. And there is also circular, and there is also circular